This is the fourth video in our multi-part series, Does the Bible Say the Earth is Flat? In this video, we will take a close look at Isaiah chapter 40, verse 22. We will attempt to answer the question, does Isaiah 40:22 say that the earth is flat? For more than 2,000 years, since the time of Aristotle, no educated society has taken seriously the idea that the earth might be flat. Nevertheless, although the Christian Church has never officially required anyone to believe that the earth was flat, many Christians have continued to believe in a flat earth. Where did they get this idea? Did they get it from the Bible? Did the Bible's writers believe in a flat earth? Most Christians say no, but some Christians have a different point of view. In the last couple of decades, a rapidly growing movement has emerged within conservative Christianity, claiming that the Bible teaches that the earth is as flat as a pancake. These conservative, Bible-believing Christians are well organized and have many very professional-looking websites. This is just a partial list. They have also published many detailed, extensively documented, well-illustrated books, DVDs, and online videos. These are just a few of the ones that have been published in the past couple of decades. This has caused great distress among biblical creationists who believe that the Christian God created the entire universe slightly more than 6,000 years ago, but also believe in a spherical earth. Why should this bother creationist Christians so much? Don't flat earth Christians have the same right to promote their interpretation of the Bible that creationist Christians do? Maybe creationist Christians are upset because flat earth Christians have borrowed many of their arguments and tactics from creationist Christians. Here are some of the main arguments that creationist Christians use to promote their beliefs. These arguments work just as well, and they make just as much sense for flat earth Christianity as they do for creationist Christianity. But do flat earth Christians have an argument? Is it really possible that the Bible says that the earth is flat? Surprisingly, flat earth Christians' biblical arguments are strong enough that Bible-believing Christians should really give them some serious thought. In this 6-video series, we will discuss 6 different Bible-based arguments for a flat earth. Each video will discuss a different argument. Links to the other videos in this series are in the YouTube description for this video and on our website. This video will discuss whether Isaiah chapter 40 verse 22 says the earth is flat. Isaiah 40:22 says, quote, God sits enthroned above the circle of the earth. Christianity's defenders often quote this verse as proof that the writers of the Old Testament knew that the earth was a sphere. One well-known example is the Scofield Reference Bible, which is one of the most widely respected annotated Bibles among conservative Christians. The Scofield Reference Bible says that Isaiah 40:22 is, quote, a remarkable reference to the sphericity of the earth, and Scofield also provides 6 other verses that he says prove the same thing. The famous creationist, Henry Morris, also claims that this verse, quote, clearly refers to the sphericity of the earth. If Scofield and Morris are correct, this would indeed be remarkable, because in the 8th century BC, when conservative Christians believed the book of Isaiah was written, everybody believed that the earth was flat, except if we believe the claims of conservative Christians, the writers of the Bible. The conservative Christian Westminster Theological Journal is correct when it says, quote, all scientifically naive tribal peoples and both Eastern and Western thinkers until the 5th century BC at the earliest conceived of the earth as a flat single continent, usually in the shape of a flat circular disk. If you lived 2,700 years ago, you would believe that the whole earth was shaped something like this, a 6th century BC map from Babylon, or this, a Greek map from the 6th century BC. If the writer of Isaiah rejected the prevailing knowledge of his day and said that the earth was a sphere, it would be powerful evidence that he had a source of scientific information that was unavailable to anyone else. But does Isaiah 40:22 really say that? Let's start by looking it up in different translations. Here is Isaiah 40:22 in 12 of the most widely respected English translations of the Bible. 10 of them agree that Isaiah 40:22 says circle, to give vault as a variant reading. Notice that none of them say sphere or globe. Let's start with the two that say vault. The word vault in this context means an arched structure, the kind that is frequently seen in churches and other large buildings, such as this cathedral. This is a very clear reference to the belief that the sky is a solid, arched object covering a flat earth, a belief which is quite popular among modern-day 21st century flat earth Christians. Certainly there is no room for a spherical earth in the word vault. Whether you accept the flat earth Christian's interpretation or not, I believe that everyone would have to admit that there is certainly no hint of a spherical earth in the word vault. In fact, it is geometrically, mathematically impossible to build a single vault that would cover or enclose an entire sphere. The best that you can do is to cover half a sphere. But the whole vault idea makes perfect sense for a flat earth, because a single vault can easily enclose a flat surface. Let's look at one more translation. I know that you're probably not a Greek scholar, but stay with me and I'm sure that you'll be able to understand this. The Septuagint was a Greek translation of the Bible that was made in the 3rd and 2nd centuries BC. For over 2,000 years, it has been the most definitive and influential Greek translation of the Old Testament in the world. The Septuagint is often quoted in the New Testament. For us, the second most important thing is that the translators, a team of 72 Hebrew scholars, had access to much earlier Hebrew manuscripts than are available to Bible scholars today. And for us, the most important thing is that the translating was done in Alexandria, Egypt, the center of science for the ancient world. Every one of the translators surely must have known that Greek science taught that the earth was a sphere. So what does the Septuagint say? Well, here it is. Ha katekon ton gyron tes geis. Let's break this down. I am not a Greek scholar, so I looked this up in my Greek-English Septuagint. This phrase translates to, quote, "It is He, that is God, that comprehends the circle of the earth." Notice that the Septuagint also uses the word circle. The Greek word for sphere is sphira, but the translators chose not to use it in Isaiah 40:22. So we see that the translators of the Septuagint, even though they had much earlier manuscripts than we do now, and even though they knew that Greek science provided a powerful incentive to say that Isaiah 40:22 said the earth was a globe or a sphere, still translated it as circle, which to the Greeks was a precisely defined geometric term, just as it is today. Now let's take a close look at the word circle, which is used in the other 10 translations that we looked at. Just what is a circle? Can a circle be three-dimensional? Can circle really mean sphere? Here are definitions from several online dictionaries. I just entered the phrase define circle into Google and picked up the first 4 that popped up. The Google definition is, quote, a round plane figure whose boundary, the circumference, consists of points equidistant from a fixed point. The Merriam-Webster definition is a closed plane curve, every point of which is equidistant from a fixed point within the curve. The dictionary.com definition is that a circle is a closed plane curve consisting of all points at a given distance from a point within it called the center. It even gives a two-dimensional equation for the circle. X squared plus y squared equals r squared. And Wikipedia's definition is a circle is a simple closed shape in Euclidean geometry. It is the set of all points in a plane that are a given distance from a given point. There's one other interesting thing about Wikipedia's definition. Notice that it says the circle is a shape in Euclidean geometry. Just what is Euclidean geometry? Euclidean geometry was developed by Euclid of Alexandria, who lived around 300 BC. This is the same Euclid whose geometry you studied in high school. This brings us to an important connection. Remember how the Septuagint was translated by Jewish scholars in Alexandria. They knew the difference between a circle and a sphere, because Euclidean geometry had been taught in Alexandria for several generations by the time they translated Isaiah 40:22 from Hebrew to Greek. So, can the word circle really mean sphere? The answer is a definite resounding no. A circle is two-dimensional. It's flat. A sphere is three-dimensional. Another common approach used by conservative Christian apologists is to simply claim that all of the translators were all wrong. These defenders of Christianity, who know little or nothing about ancient Hebrew, expect us to believe that they know better than the hundreds of translators who devoted their lives to studying the Hebrew language, many of whom were devout Christians or Jews, in 13 different translations spanning a time period of over 2,200 years. This claim is preposterous and intellectually dishonest on its face, so it doesn't deserve a response. But there are a lot of folks saying it, so I do want to point out that there is a way to use the Bible itself to test these claims. If you want to verify for yourself whether a translation of a particular word is plausible, one way to do that is to look up the Hebrew word and see how it is used in other places in the Bible. According to Young's Analytical Concordance and Strong's Exhaustive Concordance, the Hebrew word translated circle in Isaiah 40:22 is a word that can be pronounced khoog or chug. It is used 4 times in the Old Testament. Here's Job 22:14 in the same 12 translations that we used for Isaiah 40:22. We see that khoog is translated vault, circle, circuit, and rim. It is never translated sphere or globe in Job 22:14, nor does the context ever imply sphere or globe. Here is Job chapter 26, verse 10. Although there is a lot of variability in the exact words, the idea is the same. All of these translations and the context of the verse point us to a two-dimensional boundary, ring, or circle, not a three-dimensional sphere. And here is Proverbs 8:27. Once again, we see circle and ring, which are two-dimensional. Also, a couple of references to the horizon, which of course appears flat and two-dimensional when viewed from the Earth's surface. So we see that there is nothing in these other verses to indicate that khoog could be used to describe a three-dimensional sphere or globe. The translators were right. And all 4 of these verses point strongly toward a flat, circular earth. Another argument that spherical earth Christians use is that the ancient Hebrew language did not have a word for sphere or globe, or any three-dimensional round object. So God used khoog because it was the closest word that he had. There are a couple of fatal flaws with this argument. First of all, there actually is a Hebrew word for a three-dimensional round object, and it is in the book of Isaiah, so the author of Isaiah has to have known about it. The Hebrew word dur means ball, and it is used in Isaiah 22:18. The Bible never says that the earth is shaped like a dur. The other part of this argument is fallacious because God is all-powerful. If God didn't like the word dur, he could have invented a completely new word and used that word. People have certainly invented new Hebrew words. Modern Hebrew has tens of thousands of new words that ancient Hebrew doesn't. In fact, modern Hebrew even has a word for sphere, kadur. So the idea that God didn't have a word to use just doesn't work. The author of Isaiah really did mean circle, not sphere. And so did the God who inspired Isaiah, if there was one. As a last-ditch argument, some Christian apologists argue that the earth actually does look like a circle when it's viewed from space. This argument has two fatal flaws. First of all, it's irrelevant even if it was true. Second of all, it's not true. The argument's irrelevant because God was the only one who could see the earth from space at the time when Isaiah was written, and if the earth was a sphere, God would know it. We've already seen that whatever God inspired Isaiah inspired him to write that the earth looks like a khoog, not a dur. Second of all, the earth does not look like a circle when it is viewed from space. The earth looks like a sphere. I'm not sure where Christian apologists came up with the idea that the earth looks like a circle when it is viewed from space. Maybe it's from drawings like this one, but it is wrong. Here's a composite photo of the earth from space from NASA's website. Somebody has combined hundreds of small images to make one big flat one. Now let's cut a circle out of it and compare that circle to a similar composite photo representing a spherical earth. Obviously, these two photos are not the same, even though they are both two-dimensional images because your computer screen is a two-dimensional display. The continents on the edges of the spherical earth wrap around the three-dimensional sphere. The continents on the flat circular cutout do not. Also, a photo like this one would only be possible if the sun was directly behind the camera, a situation which is almost never true in actual space. Nevertheless, Christian apologists continue to promote this belief. For example, Jonathan Sarfati, in his book Refuting Evolution, says, quote, Isaiah 40:22 refers to the circle of the earth. Even if the translation circle is adhered to, think about Neil Armstrong in space. To him, the spherical earth would have appeared circular, regardless of which direction he viewed it from. Mr. Sarfati is referring to the first landing on the moon, on which Neil Armstrong was one of a three-man crew in 1969. You know, I'm constantly amazed at Christianity's defenders so often make such dogmatic claims and then put precisely zero effort into verifying whether their claims are true. Unfortunately for Mr. Sarfati, the Apollo 11 crew took several cameras with them on their trip. So we know exactly what the earth looked like, and it was not a circle. It was a sphere. Notice that the sun only illuminates part of a sphere of the earth. If the earth was a flat circle, it would have looked very different from what we see in the NASA photographs. Take a close look at these two photos. They were taken at different times on the Apollo 11 mission. The one on the left shows Africa and part of the Middle East. The one on the right shows the Pacific Ocean and part of Mexico. A circle would not do this. A sphere obviously does. The most disturbing part of this claim is that so many Christian apologists make this claim so dogmatically when they have obviously made no effort whatsoever to see if what they're saying is actually true. These are only a few of the photos taken on a single mission. NASA has a huge number of photographs of Earth taken from space, from many different missions, in the public domain, and available to anyone who wants them. The photos on this screen right now are almost 50 years old. They were made in 1969. But the Bible's defenders are still using these same old, tired, conclusively disproven arguments. Only a flat Earth would look like a circle when viewed from space. Flat Earth Christians have provided many very nice graphics to illustrate that for us. Okay, so maybe Isaiah 40:22 doesn't work at all. What about Dr. Scofield's other verses that he listed in his cross-reference to Isaiah 40:22? I'm not going to read all 6 of these verses. You can screen print them or stop this video and read them yourself if you want to. The amazing thing about this is that not one of these verses says anything about a circular or spherical Earth. Dr. Scofield clearly wants us to believe that the Bible contains multiple verses that support the idea of a spherical Earth. But when we look at the Bible for his so-called proof texts, they don't even try to do what he says they do. This just points out the importance of checking the facts for ourselves. Huge numbers of conservative Christians place their faith in the Scofield Reference Bible. But as I discovered long ago, when I myself was a conservative, Bible-believing Christian, what someone says about the Bible, what someone says the Bible says, and what the Bible really says are very often not the same thing. Let's summarize what we've covered and then we'll be done. First, Isaiah 40:22 says God sits enthroned above the circle of the earth. Many Christian apologists claim that this means that the Bible says that the earth was a sphere hundreds of years before philosophers and mathematicians discovered it. Second, the Hebrew word for circle in this verse is khoog. 12 of the most well-respected English Bibles, plus the Septuagint, translate khoog as circle or vault, not sphere or globe, in Isaiah 40:22. Khoog is never used to mean sphere or globe anywhere in the Old Testament. Fourth, a circle is a flat, two-dimensional structure. Circle cannot mean sphere. A vault can easily cover all of a flat surface, but it cannot cover more than half of a sphere. Fifth, the earth does not look like a circle when it is viewed from space. Photographic evidence proves that the earth looks like a sphere. Sixth, the ancient Hebrew word dur means ball and is used in Isaiah 22:18. The Old Testament never claims that the earth is shaped like a dur. If God felt there was not a suitable word for sphere or globe in the ancient Hebrew language, he could have invented one. The modern Hebrew word for sphere is kadur. And last, since a valid word for ball did exist, and the author of Isaiah used it elsewhere in his book, but he chose to use the word for circle in Isaiah 40:22, we must conclude that this was a deliberate choice, and that the author of Isaiah, and his supernatural inspirer, if there was one, believed that the earth resembled a flat circle, not a round ball. Does Isaiah 40:22 say that the earth is flat? We hope we have given you enough information to make a well-informed decision. Thank you for watching our video. Just a friendly reminder that this video is one of a multi-part series. Links to the other videos in this series are in the YouTube description on our YouTube channel and on our website. For more interesting videos and more interesting information about the Bible and Christianity, please visit our website, freethinkersbooks.com. If you liked our video, please click the YouTube like icon, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and share our video with your friends. Thanks again.